Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Radhika Raman Radhika Krishavana Mali Giriju Ki Jai Ho. Om Agana Timarandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chakshu and Militamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitamina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Patantikam Namo Mahavananaya Krishna Prema Pratayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gora Tapashe Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I'd like to offer my heartfelt Puspanjali to the lotus feet of my Harinam Diksha Guru, our Srila Prabhupada. Second of all, to my Bhajan Shiksha Guru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and to Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharti Goswami Maharaj, to our entire Guru Parampara, and to especially to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and his Mādhurya-kādambinī. So today we're going to start with a kirtan. Kunja Bihari Jaya Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Vrindāvana-vilāsinī Gopīnātha Yashoda-nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda-nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda-nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda-nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna-tira Vanachari Yamuna-tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai. So today we're continuing on with the second shower of Mādhurya-kādambinī, and I just wanted to say a little something before that about Sri Vrindāvana Dham, because here we are in Sri Vrindāvana Dham, and it's rather chilly. It's a little cold here, and it's 2, 3, 4 degrees early in the morning. But Srila Narayan Maharaj, he was explaining in his Brajmandal Parikrama book that there are three aspects of the Dham. And the first aspect is this, the one that we're in, those that are here, and those of you out there, you're meditating on, and also the other Dhams. This is the Vrindāvana Dham that was left after Krishna performed his pastimes 5,000 years ago here. He went on to another universe in the material world, and that's Prakat Dham. That's a manifest Dham where Radha and Krishna are performing their pastimes within the material world. That's Prakat. This is called, this one here, is called Drishyaman. Drishyaman Dham. Drishyaman Vrindavan. Drishya means to see. It means he's left, Krishna has mercifully left some of his Dham that we can see with our conditioned material eyes. He's very kind, very kind. Just like the Thakurjis, the deities, he has left for us. He's left Tulsi Devi for us. He's left Jamuna and Ganga, so many merciful manifestations. So this Dham here, that a few of us right now are in, it's a little cold. We're getting tested by Srimati Radharani, because in the winter it gets very cold, And in the summer, it gets rather hot, sometimes up to 50 degrees centigrade. So this is a place for our sudden bhajan to attain perfection when we're really fortunate. Because Rupa Goswami, who's our Acharya, he has said that we should come to Vrindavan. We should try very hard to bring our body to Vrindavan. Now, if we can't, then we should at least make Vrindavan our heart and mind. But we should try and be in Vrindavan under the care of the Rasic Bhaktas, the Rupanuga Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and to practice our sudden bhajan, hearing, chanting, and remembering the beautiful pastimes, Nam, Rup, Guna, Leelas of Radha and Krishna. That is the perfection and the essence. And so we have Drishyamān Vrindavan that we can see with our conditioned material eyes. Then we have Prakat Vrindavan, which is the Vrindavan manifest within the material world. And then we have Aprakat. Aprakat Vrindavan, which is Vrindavan in this eternally manifest spiritual world. But actually for Radha and Krishna, they're not different. Aprakat and Prakat. Radha and Krishna are Radha and Krishna. But for us, as conditioned souls, as sadhaks, progressing on the path of bhakti, so when we're very fortunate, we come to this Drishyamān Vrindavan. Or at least when we're in some other part of the world, we're making Vrindavan our mind, our heart, and our soul, right? We're meditating on Sri Vrindavan Dham. And then when we finally attain the mercy of Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas, Krishna, Radharani, in their combined form as Satchidananda and Gaurhari, and we actually attain, we pass through, as we're going to study later, Nishta. Right now we're in Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, and Anartha-nivṛtti. We're here. And the idea is the fruit of praying, right? So when we finally have advanced, and our Satguru and the Vaishnavas, they bestow that mercy and bhav. When we've gone through Nishta, Ruchi, Ashakti, finally, then our patra, our container, doesn't have the holes anymore. Right now, if Sadguru was to give us this mercy, it would go through the holes in our patra. Patra means our container, the heart. Our heart still has some holes. And so we cannot contain bhav and prem. Not possible. But when we become, the anartas by their mercy are eradicated, which we'll talk more about today, the eradication of the anartas that come from seva aparads. Anyhow, and these are eradicated to a very, very high degree. Only we have some degree of the anartas from aparad, just a little smell, fragrance is left. Then we're qualified when Sri Guru wants, he cannot be forced. When we attract his mercy, he bestows that mercy which awakens the bhav that's already in our heart. Bhav is there, prem is there in our heart, but it's covered. It's not manifested. It's a potential. We talked about this before. As the seed of a banyan tree, everything is there. So everything is in the seed of our heart, our spiritual body, everything. Here it comes. And so, but as we know, a seed can't fructify unless water comes, sun comes. So many things have to come to make the seed sprout. So also for us, we need that water, that sun, the mercy from Sri Guru and the Vaishnava, from Panchatattva. And then our bhav actually becomes manifest. And what is that? It's very exciting. That is our spiritual body, our siddha deha. Because our siddha, you want to close the door just a little? Our siddha deha is actually our unique personal mood of seva. There's no one like us, here or there. Everyone's an individual. Everyone's unique. So from that point of view, you can see, once we finally get to the level of bhav and prem, and we start to, the avidya, the ignorance is going, I'm the body, I'm this and that, I'm the controller. Envy goes. Because there's no need for envy. What's there to be envious of? Krishna loves us as we are. He loves our service. It's prem. It's bhav. You see? There's no more envy up there. There's no more hatred. This is not there because we're not competing with Krishna anymore. We're not thinking we're Krishna anymore. So at this time when bhav comes and our siddha deha is manifest, and we still have our sadak body though in bhav. And this is happening within. Okay? But when this is perfect, it's called Swarup Siddhi. When this becomes, and prem comes finally, then at some point in there, we get transferred to the planet where Krishna and Radha are having their pastimes. And our material body is forgotten. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in one of his tikas in the 10th canto that for some, the body will seem like it, quote, dies, passes away. For others, it will just, and even like Dhruva Maharaj, he went back home, back to God in the self-same body. But it was spiritualized. So it depends on Krishna's desire. But we no longer are, our material body is no longer an impediment for us, is no longer there. We have a spiritual body at that point in Prakat Leela. And in Prakat Leela, we get trained more. We get trained by the Nitya Siddha gopis or gopas, whatever ras we're in. We get trained and trained, like how to serve. And eventually we even get some service. And that's called Vastu Siddhi. This is our Vastu, our real form. And when that is perfected, then we get transferred to Aprakat Leela, the eternal, ever-existing spiritual Vrindāvana. Because they're all spiritual, but eternally manifest in the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindāvana, Gokul Vrindāvana.
So, what is exact difference between Vastu and Swarup? If Vastu also means form?
Well, Hare Krishna, Swarup Siddhi, I don't know the technical things, but in Swarup Siddhi, we still are within the material body. It's a sadak deha is still manifest.
Yeah.
But for Vastu Siddhi, there's no material body there. The material body cannot contain prem. Not possible. So everything is spiritualized. Everything. And we're simply situated within our spiritual body. All right, see, the material words cannot really properly describe it. Because our words cover, in Jaiva Dharma, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that especially up on these higher levels, it's not possible because the material language gets covered. Even the most exalted souls really cannot describe. So at this point, we have to just depend on the mercy of Guru and Krishna, be satisfied with whatever realizations they're giving us, and then Krishna will help us in our evolution, like that. But we can understand that our Siddha Deha is 100% spiritual. So it's a bit hard to understand, but it's also said when we get real Diksha, our body becomes spiritualized. So at which point, you see, it's very interesting. It's actually explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in a tika to the 10th canto about the gopis going to the rasa dance and the ones that were held back and the ones that weren't. But it's very difficult to actually really explain with the material language. It's very difficult. I've read it a few. It's the ones that were held back still has some little what do you call it? Impurity. The words don't really say it because they still had some. It was affection for the affection of their husbands and wives, like this, something like that. Some pious. They were still some little something because these were the ones that were married and had children and like this. And so they were still as so, but then because they couldn't go to the rasa dance, even though they had heard the flute, the fire of separation that they experienced by not being able to go, by being locked up. And Krishna actually comes in their heart. So everything, 100% of the pious, everything is purified. Then they can finally go. It's a very, it's an evolution, a purification. It can't really be described, but a little hint can be given. And also, it's individual. I remember listening to Srila Narayana Maharaj one time. He was describing the usual process, you know? And then he was looking around the room. This was a darshan, and he said, that's one of the many ways. You see, so Krishna he can break his own rules, which is what he did with Gopkumar. He broke the rules with Gopkumar and Brihad Bhagavatamrita. You see, so we have to understand that we just have to love Krishna eventually. We love Krishna, we depend on Krishna, our sweet Lord Krishna, Radharani, our mistress, our Swamini, and beg for their mercy and understand we're so fallen, we don't deserve it. But what Rupa Goswami says in the Zukalika Valari, I know I'm dull-witted, I know I'm very fallen, I know I'm sinful, I hardly ever utter your name, but who would not be attracted by the sweetness of your qualities? Who would not? So I've just given up all shame, everything, and I'm just begging for your mercy because your sweet qualities, everything about you is so sweet, I cannot resist. You see? So when finally, we're purified by the mercy of Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas, and this eagerness starts to come, and we've decided to accept exactly what, let's say, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying in his Mādhurya-kādambinī, which is coming down really from Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, which is coming down from Mahaprabhu, which is even coming from our Adi Guru, Lord Brahma, when we start to finally just surrender. Surrender our false ego. Surrender our misconceptions. Give up our material attachments. Just do it. And pray. And when we can't, we just pray and pray and pray. Help me. And just become actually finally one focused on the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. Then the progress becomes more, and then things become easier like this. But right now, back to reality. We're down here. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has explained that we have, we'll just go over them quickly, there are four causes for obstacles or anarthas, right? And that was duskritota, which was impediments coming from sinful activities. We had sukritota, which is impediments coming from pious activities. We had aparadota, those coming from offenses. And we had bhakti uta, those coming from imperfectly performed devotion. And last week we talked about all the different types of those. Today, we're moving on in the second shower. We're moving to the section where Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that seva aparads, which is in the category of aparads, we had aparads to seva, we had nam aparad, we had those that are related to Krishna, like Guru and Vaishnava and the Dham, and we had jiva. There were four categories in the aparad. But the aparads from our seva, they're not included in this. They're different. Really, when he's talking about aparad dota, whatever it is, it's nam aparad. That's what Vishwanath Chakravarti is saying here. And why is seva aparad not really included? He explains because, and we'll go through some of the seva aparads, because Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that it's very important that we thoroughly understand seva aparads, so we don't do them. And he says, but a sincere devotee, when he's doing seva, and this is particularly to Thakurji, he is usually very careful. Very careful. And he's very conscious, like this. So if he makes some accident, and he doesn't usually do seva aparads. He doesn't do that. That's just we'll see when we're going through them, he doesn't do them. And if he does, like by some chance, what happens is by constantly chanting, and there's certain prayers that we can recite that are to counteract these kind of offenses, and we keep serving. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that on a day-to-day basis, these aparads are eradicated automatically. So they're not part of, they're just automatically. If one is sincere and one keeps chanting, one is praying, one keeps serving, automatically these things will be taken care of. You see? But he does say one thing. He says, but if, it's kind of like not, it's like the seventh aparad to the name, committing sin on the strength of chanting. But if the sevak is thinking, well, if I just keep chanting and praying, I won't have a problem with any reaction to things I do wrong. So I don't have to be so careful. So he isn't careful and doesn't really avoid the seva aparads. Then what happens? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, they are transformed into nam aparad. So it's very serious. So we need to know what they are, so that these things these activities don't get transformed into nam aparad, because we're thinking, oh, it doesn't really matter. No, it doesn't matter. I can just chant, I can pray, and they'll be eradicated. So you see, especially with Thakurji Seva, we have to be very conscious. And why is that? Because this is for us beginners. Krishna has mercifully himself come as Thakurji. Thakurji is Krishna, is Radharani, is Nitai, is Gaur. Thakurji is that manifestation out of causeless mercy that's taking our service, even though we don't have praying. Prabhupada in his books, he so many times has said, for the beginners, it's absolutely necessary that they worship the deity so that they can become personalists, because we're coming out of a very impersonal background. How can we understand the personal form of God, of Krishna, if there isn't something there for us to tangibly relate to and to serve? Mm-hmm. But with service, until we have prema, it has to be under the rules and regulations as coming down through our Guru Parampara by the authorized authorities. Has to be. When we're on spontaneous level, then it's different. That's a whole nother thing. But for us, we have to learn the rules and regulations. We have to do it. And then we have to have also cultivate not just how to, let's say, properly do an artik, properly bathe the deity, feed the deity. What are the mantras? How to do this? But what is the mood? That's even the most important thing, is the mood. And so by the mercy of Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas, we start to think, we say, like for myself, I was a Christian. And God was kind of like some formless person out there in heaven somewhere, sitting on a cloud or something. There was just no idea of who God is. At best, he was an old man sitting somewhere, giving us everything we wanted, right? But so now, Srila Prabhupada and our entire Guru Parampara have come, and they have brought Radha and Krishna, Nitai Gaur, Jagannath, Balaram, Subhadra, all over the world, everywhere, in the holy name. And we cannot worship Thakurji without the holy name. Without kirtan, it's not complete. And so the mood is, we're in what's called, Arup Siddha Bhakti. There's Arup Siddha Bhakti, Sangha Siddha Bhakti, and Swarp Siddha Bhakti. Well, Arup Siddha Bhakti is where we're superimposing bhakti on our activities, because we don't really have pure bhakti. Our activities may be bhakti. Let's say you're worshiping Tulsi. That's a pure activity, but we aren't pure. So anyhow, the example of a Arup Siddha Bhakti is something like, this is a very famous example. I like pizza. especially pizza with lots of tomatoes. So we build a garden. We grow lots of eggplants and tomatoes, and we have a cow, and we have milk, and so we get lots of cheese and lots of this, and we make a pizza, and but we've entered into the path of bhakti by the mercy of Guru and the Vaishnavas. So we think, oh, I will offer this pizza to Krishna. I'm sure he'll like it. Because we like it, right? And maybe we don't even care if he likes it. The point is, we want to eat pizza. And so we offer it to Krishna with tulsi, with the proper way we offer. And then we take the Mahaprasadam. This is the beginning for everyone. If it's not, that means you practiced bhakti in your past lives. Everyone starts like this. And little by little by little, we start to think, finally, oh, I wonder what Krishna really likes. What does he like? How can I make something that actually he likes? This is a process. Our mood becomes transformed. The more we have affection for Thakurji, we make Thakurji the center of our life. Householders are supposed to have Thakurji and make Thakurji the center of their household. And for the brahmacharis, they are in a temple, and Thakurji is the center. They're serving Radha Govinda, Radha Rasa Bihari, whoever it is. Radha Gopīnātha, Radha Vinod Bihari. And that's the center of their life. And they're doing it for their pleasure. Gradually, not just following the rules and regulations because Sri Guru told me to. That's good. That's a beginning. Because at least we're trying to make our Guru happy, who saved us from hell. That's the beginning. But eventually, we want more than that. We want, Krishna is also a person. My Guru isn't the only person around. The Vaishnavas aren't the only people around. Krishna is a person. And who cooks for Krishna? Radharani. Radharani knows what Krishna likes. In fact, anything she makes, no matter what she would make, he would like. Because of her love and affection, right? So, eventually, us as sadhaks, we're thinking properly, when we go in the kitchen, this is Radharani's kitchen. I'm assisting Srimati Radhika. Like this. Oh, actually, I'm really not. But when will that day be mine? This is actually, Krishna is going to accept what Radharani cooks. Like this. You see what I mean? It's an evolution of consciousness. And it's my sweet Lord, my Giridhari. Mine. Some mamata comes. Mine. Not yours. It's yours too. Ours. But mine. Mine. This instead of my body, and I've got to cook, so I'll be healthy. And let's just have boiled subsies. I hear Krishna, you better like it, because this is what I got to take. That can be there, because we do have to take care of our vehicle. But we should understand that eventually, when we reach a much higher platform, Mahabhagavatas can take and honor and serve any Mahaprasadam. They don't need a healthy diet. Their healthy diet is Mahaprasadam. You see, like this. So we just have to always be honest, like that. So, something I was going to say, and then I forgot what it was. Oh, and the other thing is, not only is it my Krishna, my Radharani, and so that's why then, and like my lady who does my cooking now, because I can't really stand up so much, she's really good like this. She thinks that Radharani, she's trying to think about Radharani, and she's thinking, we're late today. Krishna's hungry, we're late, because in deity worship, timing, Prabhupada always said to be on time is very important and to be very clean. Those are two very important things he said. So being on time, now that just, one day you have lunch at 11 o'clock in the morning, one day you have lunch at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, if you're on the platform of a Uttam Mahabhagavata like Vamsidas Babaji, then that's different. But for us, in our stage, timing is of the essence, actually. It should be on time. Because then we're starting to give up our selfishness and develop selflessness. What does Krishna want? What does Radharani, what do they want? How do they like it? And another point is, You never, ever give up your Thakurji. They're yours. You don't just have them for 10 years and all of a sudden you don't feel like worshiping them. Okay, let's give them away. No. No. There's possessiveness there. And if for some reason why, then you find a home where they're loved. You know, you can't just put them on the table downstairs and hope someone picks them up. The giveaway table. No. No, because there's love and affection there. You see? My heart and soul, my life. This is Thakurji. So we're developing gradually. That's all we need to hear. So now we're going to, there's a whole list here. We're going to read a few of them so we can understand what the actual offenses are. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur first of all talks about the 32 Seva Aparads from the Padma Purana. The number one, very interesting. And we're talking, now there's a little bit of a difference between what has been called Raj Seva and family Seva. When you have a deity in a temple, like we have here, Radha Damodar, Radha Madan Mohan, or if you have a deity in your own home, and your own home isn't really so much, now I know some Brijbasis have their home, it's like a temple. It really is. But like for myself, it's not so much like that. So there's a little bit of a difference between family worship and Raj Seva. There is. That we have to understand. That was, I heard that Harikatha from Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj. Like that. And I know Srila Narayana Maharaj, when he installed some of his disciples' Thakurjis, he said, treat them like your family members. Like this. So we have to be very careful. We shouldn't criticize others. We shouldn't fault find others. We should make sure we don't commit seva aparadhas, but we leave everything else up to Guru and Krishna. We don't go around saying, hey, you're doing this. Why are you doing that? What are you doing? We don't make that our business. Okay? We look at ourselves. Because how do we know really what's going on with that other person? I'll give you an example. Right now in my Bhagavatam Istagosi, we're studying Jad Bharat. And Jad Bharat, was Maharaj Bharat. He was a deer, and now he's Jad Bharat. And he's been asked by King Rahugana to help carry. Now, he didn't ask. Actually, King Rahugana is being carried on a palanquin by some men, by his servants. And they need one more. They only have 3. So they find Jad Bharat, who's very strong. But of course, he's a Maha Bhagavad. Anyhow, he doesn't protest. He starts carrying the palanquin with these 3 other servants. But because he's a Vaishnava of the topmost quality, and he cannot give up his Vaishnavism, he's going very slow because he sees if there's ants. He doesn't want to kill any ants because Vaishnavas don't kill unnecessarily. So the palanquin's not moving so well. So the king becomes a little angry. And he says some very not necessary things to Jad Bharat. Because he's a king, he's in the mode of passion. And then it happens again, and he gets really angry. But you see, what is the fault here? He never stopped, the king never stopped to ask Jad Bharat in a very nice way, what's the problem? Is there some problem? Do you have a broken leg? Or is it, why is it? Immediately, because of that mode of passion, he gets angry. He never inquires in a nice way, well, is there some problem? Why you can't? Because Jad Bharat's very strong. He should be able to carry it fine. What is the difference in consciousness? So our consciousness should be compassionate, loving, affectionate, not, wow, he's disturbing me. My palanquin's not going quite right. You must be an idiot. You must be a fool. I will punish you. This is the King Rahugana. Of course, he's very fortunate. He gets to have the association of Jad Bharat, who enlightens him, and he becomes a pure devotee. So, but we should be very careful. Very, very careful. We don't know who we're talking to. And it's not our business. Okay, so the first Seva aparad from Padma Purana is to enter a temple wearing shoes or slippers. And I know Radharaman over here, they're so strict you can't wear socks even. There may be other temples, but Radharaman is very strict. Not even socks. Okay? Number 2. And if anyone has any question, then we'll go in further. Some of these are quite simple. To enter a temple carried on a palanquin or a carrier. So we don't come in proudly before Krishna on a palanquin. Because I don't think many of us would do that. For us Westerners, some of these seem a little bit absurd. But anyhow, obviously they have some need to be said because persons used to do this. Number 3, to not observe the festivals of one's worshipful deity. So Janmashtami, you think, oh well, I don't think I feel like doing that today. It costs too much money. I feel like being by myself. Haribo. No, we have to celebrate the festivals of our worshipful deity. And even if we're just by ourselves out in the middle of Russia, Siberia, and we should worship. We should have Janmashtami of some type with whatever wonderful ingredients we have. Or we're down there in South America, in Peru, Yeah, we still do. And okay, so where are we? To fail to offer obeisances to one's worshipful deity when present before him. So we need to offer obeisances. And if we have some physical problem, at least in our mind, we need to do it, if we can't do it physically. Number 5, to offer prayers to Bhagavan while one still has food in one's mouth or on one's hands. So you don't be taking prasadam. That's why they close Thakurji's doors when they're having feasts. It's an offense to have prasadam, food in the mouth or on the hands before Thakurji. To offer prayers to Bhagavan in an impure state. Now, it doesn't really explain what the impure state is, but you can figure that out. You can ask a Vaishnava if you don't understand what an impure state is. 7, to offer obeisances to the Lord with only one hand. It's always supposed to be 2. Not just 1. Yeah. 8, to show one's back to the deities while circumambulating them. So when you're going around, you're not supposed to have your back to the deities when you come in front of the deities, like this. So that's why when they come in front of the deities, it's like this, and then you go around. You don't show your back to Thakurji. To spread one's legs before the deity. So while we're sitting, to have one's legs just spread out, like this. That's an offense. Because we're supposed to be very respectful. Now, when one's in praying, that's different. These things are completely different. But for us, who are learning the proper etiquette, how to serve and actually how to present ourselves to Thakurji so he'll accept us, we learn these, okay? 10, to sit before the deity with one's hands binding one's raised knees. That's like this. Like this. With your knees up. We're actually not supposed to do that. 11, to lay down or sleep before the deity. We don't do that. 12, to eat in front of the deity. 13, to speak lies before the deity. 14, to shout or talk loudly before the deity. We have to remember Krishna is a person. Thakurji is a person. This is what these things are trying to, these instructions, these do's and don'ts are trying to help us understand. If Manjulali is sitting here and I'm just getting over here, that's not very personal, is it? How's she gonna like that? She's not gonna like that. So Krishna and Radharani, they're people. They're the Tambos. They're very sensitive, very sweet. So they're going yelling and shouting in front of it. It's like they don't exist, you know? I'll tell you a nice story. One time I went to Srila Narayana Maharaj, and I said, I need to understand something. When I was a devotee in Los Angeles, ISKCON, I was dressing the big deities, Radha and Krishna, who are now called Rukmini and Dwarkadish, practically every day. But I also heard from Srila Prabhupada, if we think the deities are just a statue, you know, then we're an impersonalist. You know, this is offensive. But I'm not qualified to be really serving Radha and Krishna. So what's happening? What was happening there? And Srila Narayana Maharaj says something very beautiful. He said, who do you think was standing right behind you doing everything? Srila Prabhupada. He was doing it. Because Krishna is a person, Radha and Krishna are a person. But he was allowing me to be an instrument for him. Prabhupada actually said once he was doing everything in every one of his temples. That's his miracle. Every offering, everything, he was actually doing everything. Gradually, our consciousness will become transformed. So we aren't just immersed in this, what do you call it, in the gross matter. Not understanding other dimensions, the dimensions, spiritual dimensions, you know. One day we will see, one day. Okay, so to gossip before the deities about other people, we don't do this. For one thing, when you're in front of someone as special as Radha and Krishna, you're talking about them. You're glorifying them. You're serving them, you're honoring them, you're begging them, please, I can't really see you. Please cast your merciful glance upon me, so I'll one day be able to see you and serve you. Thank you for coming in this form, but it's not enough. You know, like this, I want more, but I'm not qualified, so you please make me qualified. Instead of gossiping, did you hear what Bhavan did? Did you hear what she did yesterday? Krishna doesn't want to hear that. He already knows it. Number 16. Oh, to cry before the deity. Now that means material crying. Not crying, you know, when you're wanting Krishna. But material, you know, crying because your boyfriend died, or, you know, or your boyfriend looked cross-eyed at you or something. You know, no, not like this. Or because you hurt your foot or something, you know, no. We don't cry before the Thakurji. 17, to show favor or chastise others in front of the deity. So the main point that's being made here is we make Krishna the center. We don't relate with others and neglect the deities in front of the deities. We don't do this in any way, shape, or form. We don't do that. We can bring someone to have darshan of the deity. We can do that. But we're still, oh, Radha Gopīnātha, here, look, some new person's coming. They're wanting your mercy. That's different. That we do, because we're learning to be personalists. And then how to actually have proper sadachar, proper behavior with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You see? Personal behavior. 18, to speak harsh or cruel language before the deity. These are all pretty much the same. 19, to cover oneself with a blanket while standing before the deity or while engaged in service to him. So we don't cover ourselves with a big blanket. 20, to blaspheme others before the deity. These are quite similar. 21, to glorify others before the deity. Now that's an interesting one, because we have, let's say on the appearance day of Sri Guru, then we glorify Guru. So what is the subtlety here? Who thinks they know the answer to this subtlety? Because we're not supposed to glorify others before the deities, but yeah, we do. This is one of the recommended processes of bhakti, is to glorify Shri Guru and the Vaishnavas, and usually we do it in the temple room.
Because Thakurji become pleased by the glories of his pure devotee.
Yes. Manjulali, she said, because Thakurji becomes pleased when he hears the glories of his beloved devotees, or his beloved pastime place, or anything related to him. Having a little bit of...
Maybe also when we glorify others, it may be like we can glorify or chastise them from the material point of view. But
Yeah.
when we speak about devotees, we always speak about spiritual.
Yes, that's the point. Yeah, what's being talked about here is when we glorify from a material point of view, or chastise from a material point of view. When we're glorifying the devotees for the pleasure, because we're actually doing it as a service to the Thakurji. Because they love, Krishna loves to hear the glories of Radharani, you know, of Lalita, Vishaka, of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev. He loves to hear these. Okay, let's see. To use vulgar language before the deity. That means like really bad language. Not just chastise and harsh, but really low class language. We don't do that. And you can see, and we don't do it to Vaishnavas either. This was the problem for Maharaj Rahukana. He actually, he didn't understand because he didn't have the vision yet to see that Yad Bharat was the most exalted devotee. And he actually used very vulgar, very, very low-class language. And see, actually, it's in front of Thakurji, because in Bharat's heart, Maharaj, Yad Bharat's heart, Thakurji is there. So this is an offense he was doing. 23, to pass gas or wind before the deity. We're not supposed to do this. So we should go out if this is a problem. And what's really interesting is later on, when we come to, where is it over here? Oh, there's one over here that talks more about that. Anyhow, we'll come to it. I just can't find it. But what another place it says that we shouldn't do seva to Thakurji when we have indigestion. See, because when you have indigestion, it's going to cause you to be belching or passing air like this, you know. This is the thing. So we should, what that means, if you really love your Thakurji, you're going to be careful how you honor prasadam, so you don't get indigestion. So Thakurji is like starting now to enter our lives, you know, and out of affection for him, then we start to control our senses, give up our selfishness, right? Okay, let's see, where are we here? To offer the deity items of inferior quality, even if one has the ability to offer high quality paraphernalia. For example, simply offering water and second-rate items at the time of worship, even though one is capable of offering the primary paraphernalia used in service like flowers, tulsi, incense, ghee lamp, and foodstuffs. So in other words, being lazy or miserly. We don't do this to Krishna because we want to save money. Or we just lazy? Because it says if in the Archana Paddhati book, if we don't have something, we actually don't have it and we can't get it, then you can use a flower or you can offer just water with the right mantra for that particular item, and Krishna will accept. But if actually you can get the item or even have the item and you don't do it, then it's an offense. 25. To eat foodstuffs not offered to the deity, we only take Mahaprasadam. We do not take anything else. We do not honor any bhoga. And if by chance, especially for us Westerners, even now in India, if one is traveling and it's just very difficult and you have to take something, preferably not, you take something with you that's Mahaprasadam, but if by chance you can't, then you offer to Thakurji in your mind, whatever. You do not take bhoga. It's not a light thing, because all the consciousness that's in that food, processed food, anything, the consciousness is sense gratification. But when something's been offered to Krishna, then that is transformed into desire for seva. You see? And even if it's not done really properly, but Krishna sees, oh, he's sincere. He's sincere. He wishes he could take Mahaprasadam. He's in this situation. So even if it's offered by just saying Hare Krishna, it's the consciousness that Krishna likes to see. Oh, he's thinking of me. He's trying to make me happy. He knows he shouldn't take bhoga. It's really the consciousness. But if we can offer properly and we don't, thinking, oh, I'll just offer in my mind, then that's bogus. That's completely bogus. If we're lazy, just lazy. To not offer seasonal fruit and flowers as soon as they are available. That's real personal. Especially, it's harder in the West because you just got these big old supermarkets. You get anything at any time. But especially in India, maybe South America's more like that too. Other places, whatever fruit is just coming in, or vegetables, then we're supposed to offer those to Thakurji for his pleasure. To offer the first portion of something to someone and then giving the remaining part to the deity. Ooh. Like you're making something. First you give something to someone else and then you give to Thakurji. No, we don't do this. Everything goes first to Thakurji. Now there's a Harikatha I've heard in regards to this. Also, is that I think it's from Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. Because some cooks, because they want it to be just perfect, they take a little taste to see if it's the preparation is acceptable actually for Krishna. And from what I remember, he said, this is okay, this is different, because it's for the pleasure of Krishna. And just a very little bit. It's not for your own sense gratification.
Srila, when Bhavan Maharaj was in London, one time, Kamala was cooking, and she was about to offer, and you're not gonna see if it's good for him? He was even in this mood, hey, you have to try, it's for him, from where you know it's nice.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But you have to follow your guru. Now, some Vaishnavas don't really accept this. So, and we don't criticize others, but we follow our guru, whatever he has said.
I had an experience with giving a flower to Srila Narayan Maharaj. There's a type of flower, it's different colors, and they're tiny little flowers in a cluster. And as far as I knew, they smell like lava. So I'm walking with him and I see some flowers growing like that. And I picked it and I handed it to him, and he goes like this. He goes, did you smell this? I said, no. He goes, you must
smell it first, because it probably didn't smell good.
No, it smelled terrible. So then I found out that flower doesn't always smell good. That's right.
Okay.
That's a very personal.
And then we really have to be
situation.
careful that it's consciously done for the pleasure of Krishna, not because we want to make sure we like it. That's the thing. Okay, to sit with one's back to the deity, same like circumambulation, never sit with your back to the deity. To offer obeisance to others before the deity. To in the temple room, if you see someone, although to your guru you can. You can offer your obeisances to Sri Guru in front of the deity, but not to others. To remain silent before the spiritual master, meaning not to offer him praise or obeisances and not answer his questions. So if your guru is there, and you're just sitting there silently, you haven't offered obeisance, you haven't glorified him, and he's asking you a question, you just sit there silently, this is an offense. We have to learn to get over our false ego. This is a little bit different, but one time we were at the Govardhan Gaudiya Math with Srila Narayan Maharaj, and it was the must have been the appearance day of Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, and he was asking, is it going? And he was asking, no, it's not going. And well, we turned it on. And he was asking everyone to glorify Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And he also asked, are there any disciples here? And there was one young lady, and he asked her to glorify, and she refused. Completely, she wouldn't, because of her shyness or embarrassment like this. Especially ladies, we have a tendency to be like this, but some men too. And he wouldn't accept it. He wouldn't. He finally said, just stand up and say you've seen Gaur Govinda Maharaj. So she finally did that. She just stood up, say, I have seen Gaur Govinda Maharaj, and she sat down. Because really it's an offense not to follow the instructions of Sri Guru, especially before the deities, or to not, we just have to swallow our pride, our false ego, and try and do what he asks us to do. So to praise oneself before the deity. You go before a deity and say, oh look, I'm so praising ourselves. Oh, Bhavan Tarini, we're standing in front of Thakurji. Aren't I wonderful? I distributed 500 books today. Isn't that great, Thakurji? No. And the last one from the Padma Purana is to blaspheme the demigods. We don't criticize and blaspheme the demigods because they're devotees. We don't do that. Mm-hmm. We don't worship them before Krishna, but we don't blaspheme them either. They're devotees. We give them due respect and honor. So then there's some mention from the Varaha Purana. We'll go quickly. Where are we? Oh my gosh. Let's go quickly. To eat food grains offered by a king, or by a grossly materialistic person. So we have to be careful even who's offered and cooked the prasadam. I know Srila Narayan Maharaj, when we were in Puri once, he advised us when we go to different temples, because so many of the temples are run by sahajiyas and by devotees of upper sampradayas. He said, you can take the Charnamrita water, you could take the sugar candies, but nothing cooked. Because our consciousness will come in our heart, like that. To worship or touch the Lord, the deity, in a dark room. So you always have to have the lights on. I'm going to go quickly here. To go before the deity without following the proper procedure. To open the door of the temple without ringing a bell. We're supposed to ring the bell. To collect ingredients of service that have been seen or touched by a dog. Haribo. To break silence while worshiping the Lord. So it's supposed to be silent, especially when you're pujari on the altar. You're not supposed to be talking. And to leave the worship of the deity to pass stool or urine. So you better have your health together. Or you just don't do deity where you find someone else to do it. To offer incense first without offering scented unguents, such as sandalwood pulp or flower garlands. Okay. To worship the deity with forbidden flowers, such as red hibiscus or datura flowers. To worship the Lord without having cleaned one's teeth. You go in with dirty teeth with food, you don't do that. To worship the Lord without bathing after having sexual intercourse. To render service to the Lord after touching a woman on her menstrual cycle, or after touching an oil lamp or a dead body. To render service to the Lord while wearing red, blue, or unwashed cloth, to wear cloth belonging to someone else, or to wear dirty cloth. We're supposed to be simple. To touch the deity and offer worship after seeing a dead body, after passing wind, after showing anger, after visiting a crematorium, while suffering, this is the one I was looking, while suffering from indigestion, or after taking an oil massage. And there's just a few more. We're going to go really quick here. To disregard scriptures about Bhagavan and introduce other literatures. Okay, we're not going to read Bhagavad Gita today. We're going to read this New Agey kind of book that really tells us how to be happy forever, right? To chew betel nut while standing before the Lord. To worship the Lord with flowers kept on or in forbidden leaves, such as castor oil plants. To worship at an inauspicious time that is opportune for demons. That's why you need astrologers, I suppose.
I feel like it's the nighttime. Like you cannot, not supposed to take beta because you're like a 2-1. Like this is
Okay. Especially at nighttime. To perform worship while seated on a wooden stool or while sitting on the floor and not on an appropriate seat or asana. You're supposed to have an asana. To touch the deity with the left hand while bathing him. To worship the Lord with flowers that have wilted or been procured by begging. To spit at the time of worship. This is a really good one. To boast, I am a first-class pujari. I am really good. To wear Tiryak Pundra Tilak. That's like the Shivites. To enter the temple without washing one's feet. To offer grains to Shirhari that have been cooked by non-devotees. To worship the Lord in front of a non-devotee. That's why they close the doors when they're doing, the archon. To worship the Lord without worshiping Nishingadev, the destroyer of obstacles. To worship the Lord having just seen a Kapalika mendicant. Now, a Kapalika mendicant are tantric materialists who carry skulls in their hands. They are not Vaishnavas and they follow a lifestyle that is opposed to Shastra. That you probably only find in India, Nepal, around this area. To bathe the deity with water that has been touched by fingernails. To worship the Lord while one's body is perspiring. To step over or mistreat the Lord's remnants, prasadi items. You don't step over them. To take an oath before or in the name of the Lord. That is all the ones that are mentioned in the Mādhurya-kādambinī. It's actually in the commentary of Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. So, Srila Narayan Maharaj, he goes on, the most intelligent devotees are very careful not to commit these aparadhas. And they don't become lax. So therefore, they're accidental or inadvertently doing something that isn't appropriate is nullified by their continuous chanting, by their offering prayers, and continuing to serve. They don't stop serving. In fact, he says that by this, their offense is nullified, and he says there is no possibility of it sprouting again. Okay, but if we're lax, if we're just careless, and we don't think it matters, and we think, okay, I can offer these prayers and just keep chanting and keep serving. No, then it turns into nam aparad. Committing sin on the strength of chanting. Even in Dharma Shastra, this is said. Because in Dharma Shastra, when you're committing some sinful things, there's always some atonement you can do to atone for it. But even there it says, if you doing this thinking that I'll get purified, so I keep doing, there's no atonement. No atonement. So we have to be regretful when we make a mistake and lament and pray. Okay. Hari Hari Bo. Jai. Okay, kirtan.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudhi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudhi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.
Vanchikampita, Kripa Sindhu Vyevita, Patitanam Pavane, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandhavi Kiri Radhika Raman, Radhika Krishna Bhadamali, Giriju Ki Jai. Mādhurya-kādambinī Ki Jai. Srila Vishal Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai. Okay. Now, I don't know how much we missed for this.
It's the,
Why did it go off?
it went off.
Yeah, she had to start.